United States Marine Corps, Private Raymond McKinney from Beckley, West Virginia. United States Army, Sergeant First Class Robert Berkey, Bronze Star, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. United States Navy, Petty Officer First Class Candace Holliday from Ronceverte, West Virginia. United States Army Retired, Sergeant Paul Dorsey from Bluefield, West Virginia. United States Navy, Petty Officer Second Class Sarah Brookshire from Dennington, Oregon. United States Army Staff Sergeant Brandon Neathkin, recipient of the Purple Heart from Colorado Springs, Colorado. United States Marine Corps Private Corey Tucker, Beckley, West Virginia. United States Army Second Lieutenant Tiffany Tubert from Lewisburg, West Virginia. United States Marine Corps Sergeant James T. Reddy from Columbus, Ohio. And our bagpiper, Civil Air Patrol First Lieutenant John Jones from Lewisburg, West Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, the terrorist attacks of September 11, 2001 were a defining moment in our nation's history. The attacks transformed us all, no matter our vantage. Let's hear now from a man who worked at the Pentagon that fateful day, experienced the attack, and survived. He now strives with the Wounded Warrior Project to help make a difference in the lives of wounded service members and their families. He is a story of service, sacrifice, determination, and courage. And as he is here today to share with us, please help me welcome Mr. Kevin Schaefer.
Good evening. It's an honor to share my story with you tonight. How fortunate we all are to gather here this evening at this amazing concert series. Thank you to Mr. Justice. Thank you to the Greenbrier. You are genuinely America's resort. I stand before you all tonight as a veteran, as a spokesperson for the Wounded Warrior Project, but more simply as an individual who has always sought to make a difference in this life, to make an impact. And as I look back over the chapters in my life, there's a theme. And that theme is burning. Burning in many forms, and sometimes literally burning. The September 11th attacks brought on a defining chapter in our nation's history, and the tragic loss and shock of that day will be forever burned in our memory, burned into each of our memories and the collective memory of our nation. Simply put, we will never forget.
That's right. That's right.
9/11 is burned into my memory, but as a survivor of the Pentagon's fiery midst, it's also quite literally burned into me. I was a young naval officer working in the Pentagon on that day, and when American Flight 77 crashed through the building, it instantly killed many of my office colleagues and left me severely burned over 50% of my body. I managed to escape my burning space, and I was assisted by a man who I had never met before 9/11, but whom I love as a brother today. His name was Army Sergeant First Class Steve Workman, and Sergeant Workman picked me up and got me out onto an ambulance and off to the hospital.
Amen.
When I got to the hospital, a whole team of nurses and doctors descended on me, hurriedly taking action to save my life. I'm sure their actions were controlled but I felt frantic. I felt great pain in my hands and fingers, and I heard someone call out for the ring cutters. And I yelled, "Stop! Stop!" And with all of my will and strength in that moment, I managed to pry off my wedding band I wore in my left hand and my Naval Academy class ring I wore in my right hand, and I handed them off to a nearby nurse. And I thought to myself, okay, now you can get on with saving my life. It was my last conscious memory of 9/11. And when I awoke on September 12th, I was in for the fight of my life. I flatlined twice, but I was brought back. And I realize now that my life was saved during that period by key difference makers who were by my side, the amazing nurses and doctors who were caring for me, my family, friends, and not least of all, Sergeant Workman, who was a brother by my side every day throughout my recovery. When I got home, I was a changed man, but if anything, I was a stronger man inside. And I never took for granted those who were by my side in my time of need. I got back to a new chapter in my life, a chapter of getting back to work, back to making a difference, to learning the lessons of 9/11, and helping bring justice for those responsible for carrying out the attacks, to help make this country safer. All of our lives are made up of chapters. And like 9/11, the decade of conflicts in Afghanistan and Iraq brought on defining chapters in our nation's history and have impacted many of our lives personally. These are chapters defined by service and great sacrifice of those in our military. Great sacrifice, of course, for those who laid down their lives, and great sacrifice of the over 50,000 who have been physically wounded since 9/11. The estimated 320,000 who have suffered a traumatic brain injury while on their deployment, and the estimated 400,000 who live today with the invisible wounds of war, from combat-related stress to major depression to post-traumatic stress disorder. After 9/11, our nation's finest answered the call. They were there for us. I mentioned before that we will never forget 9/11. We should also never forget that burning desire that we all felt to come together as a nation, to come together in our communities and come together as a family to help us all get through. That amazing time of unity, patriotism, and love helped me heal. And it was the environment in which I found my new normal. And I can tell you it made all the difference in the world to me. And in a very real sense, all of you were there for me. After 9/11, the men and women of our military had a burning desire to be there for us. And for the last decade, the Wounded Warrior Project has had a burning desire to be there for them. This year marks the 10th anniversary of the Wounded Warrior Project, and to mark our 10th anniversary, we have a theme. And our theme is a decade of service and a lifetime of commitment. A decade of service, a lifetime of commitment. So to any wounded warriors who can hear my voice tonight, know this: you are never alone. If you or your family have a need, the Wounded Warrior Project will be there for you. Many of you are familiar with our logo. One warrior carrying another wounded warrior in a time of great need. If you remember the first time you saw this logo and what it means to you today, I can tell you what it means to me personally. In a real sense, on 9/11, I was the first one of this generation to be picked up and helped out in a time of great need, and the first guy on top. And Sergeant Workman was the first on the bottom. And I've bounced back in so many ways since that day, and it's a privilege to today give my efforts as one of many on the bottom. The Wounded Warrior Project's mission is to honor and empower wounded warriors. Our vision is to help foster the most well-adjusted and successful generation of wounded warriors in our nation's history. It has been said that what is to give light must endure burning. I've endured the burning, and if I've given any light to you tonight, for that I'm thankful. And moving forward, if you remember me and my story, I ask that you also think about how you can make a difference in the lives of our wounded warriors. Please visit our amazing and vibrant website, woundedwarriorproject.org, and join me in a new chapter of giving back. Click on a link there that says Give Back, and you'll find out great ways to do just that. Each year, tens of thousands of wounded warriors and their caregivers benefit from programs at the Wounded Warrior Project geared to nurture their mind, their body, and encourage economic empowerment and peer engagement. We've come a long way in 10 years to fulfill our vision, but we have much work to do. So tonight, I personally say thank you for your continued and caring generosity to help us be there for our nation's wounded warriors, to help us honor and empower our nation's finest. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we'd ask you to remain standing. If you're seated, please stand as we pay tribute to the greatest country in the world, America. Presentation of colors by the Greenbrier East High School ROTC unit, and the singing of the national anthem, one of West Virginia's own, Morgan Cornwell.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we was so gallantly streamed, and the rockets gleam, the bombs bursting in air, gave through the night, and then our flight was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land
All right, how about